What's up, ladies? I'm back. Welcome to the Authentic Woman Project. I'm Shalise, and I know it's been a minute, so let's get into this video, okay? So, first of all, you're like, welcome back to the Authentic Woman Project. Girl, since when? Since when has it been called the Authentic Woman Project? Well, I renamed it because, and this is my third name change, and if it ain't the one you trying to tell me to name it, I'm gonna change it again, okay? I'm just getting started, okay? So, but right now, I like the sound of the Authentic Woman Project. At first, I was gonna say the Authentic Woman, but I'm like, well, it is a project. It takes work. It's a project. It's a process to become authentic. And so project just sounds right. And so I've been away for a minute. But before we get into that, let me tell you, tonight I went to a new members event at church with our apostle and our pastor. I go to the Rock Church in Houston, Texas. If you're interested and you need a church, check ours out. It's amazing. Now, mind you, okay, I was supposed to go to the new members event. I think they've had 2 other ones since I've been a member. Been a member for about 10 months or so. Yeah, about 10 months. I was supposed to go. They had 2 other ones that they hosted, and I did not want to go. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you. If you have an introverted personality type where you really avoid connecting with people and really being vulnerable, or even if you're not introverted but you avoid vulnerability, right? I was avoiding it, okay? But that's not what I was telling myself. I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I get off work at 6. It started at 7. I'm not gonna make it. Like, I can't do this. And it's like, what? So, I mean, I did make it after 7, but that's not like a good enough reason. The event was about 2 hours. So, and it was very informal. And it was just a way for our pastor to, first of all, our first lady told us about how our ministry first began and like history of the church. And then our pastor talked to us about, our apostle talked to us about our salvation, and what it's supposed to mean after we join the church, and what we're supposed to be doing, and we're supposed to be getting discipled, and that we have all these parameters in place so that when we join the church, when someone joins the church, that there is always somebody that they can be connected to, reach out to them, check on them when they notice that you're not at church. They're going to text you, they're going to call you, they're going to say, hey, you all right? And so they were just kind of like briefing us on that, which these are things I've known, right? Because I didn't know the backstory of the church as well as I did after going to the new members event. But I already knew most of this stuff because I've been there for 10 months. But I was avoiding this because I was afraid, because I'm like, this is intimacy. And the thing about it is, on a conscious level, I didn't realize like I'm avoiding it because it's intimacy. But on a subconscious level, that's what I was doing. And so I just wanted to tell y'all, I went to that, and oh my God, the revelation I had because of going. Now, I've had a couple revelations in the last couple days. God has really been working on me. He's been working on me for the last month, I think, that I have been absent on YouTube and TikTok, okay? I'm posting this to both YouTube and TikTok. So my name on TikTok and my name on YouTube is The Authentic Woman Project, okay? So you can find me on both. God's been dealing with me for the last month, okay? That's why I've been absent. But before I get deeper into that part, I really came to talk to y'all. What I really came to talk to y'all today about is rejection and me feeling like God is drawing me to do this, to help other women, to disciple other women. And we got technology, so I hope to disciple thousands or more of women. So the last couple days, God has really been dealing with me. I went to a Bible study this past Wednesday at church, and our apostle talked about, we are in the book of John, and we are talking, we are on, I forgot what chapter, Lord, let me look, because, you know, you gotta do things decently and in order. Yeah, so, we are in John. So this is from John 13, 34 and 35, and it says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Okay, so he taught on that scripture and showed us how we do not follow that commandment. But he showed us the ways when we don't exercise forgiveness, and all of those things, that we are actually not loving one another. And I really felt, and he was like, and you guys who say that you're introverted and you don't like people, or you don't like being around people, he's like, well, the Bible says love one another, and if you get to heaven, you're going to be around all of your brothers and sisters in Christ. So what you going to heaven for if you don't want to be around people, if you don't like people? What do you want to do that for? And it just really got me feeling so convicted, in the sense of, basically he was saying, just because your temperament, just because your personality type, aka your flesh, you prefer not to overly extend yourself and try to be more personable with people, in the sense of, even if you're uncomfortable, that you step outside of your comfort zone so that you can actually connect with people better, right? He was saying, why don't you do that? Because he was just saying that, like that we could benefit from doing it. And I felt so convicted at the time, because I was like, wow, you know, like, I've been trying, but I haven't been pushing myself as much as I could, right? So then, you know, I left there and I was really thinking, because I was like, man, he's so right. But I was like, Lord, why can't I, like, why does it seem like the harder I try with my might to try to connect with people, why does it still feel like I'm getting nowhere and I'm still doing the same thing I've always done? In a sense, like, I've had a lot of improvements, but at the end of the day, the outcome is still the same as it's always been. So what am I doing? What is it that is stopping me from being able to do what I desire to do so much? And all I think is that scripture is, the things that we desire to do, we don't do, and the things we do not desire to do, we do, right? And so that scripture popped in my head. So then I was really thinking about it. I went to work yesterday, on Thursday. I went to work, and I was like, you know, I haven't listened to Tiffany Buckner in a while. I don't know if you heard of Tiffany Buckner on TikTok and on YouTube. Her name on there is Anointed Fire, right? I don't know if you heard of her, but I was like, I haven't listened to her stuff in a while. I'm gonna go and look and listen to it, because one thing God has been convicting me about too is at these last few weeks, I felt the expressed need, like, I've especially felt the need to literally protect my eye and ear gates, in the sense of, I only am listening to gospel music. Like, even though I do sometimes still listen to other secular music that's not, the messages not involving murder and sex, right? But I was like, no, I need to listen to only gospel music. And I need to, when I'm watching entertaining content or anything like that, it needs to be me learning about the Bible, Christian content, learning about God. So like Jackie Hill Perry, and things like that. Or it needs to be about how to get this money. Okay, so Dave Ramsey. So and reading the Bible and things like that. So I've only been doing that, especially as of late. But I hadn't listened to Anointed Fire, Tiffany Buckner, in a while. I was like, let me listen to her. I've been trying to figure out why I've never been able to stick to a schedule, why I've never been able to consistently get up at a certain time every day, and why every time I try to start a new healthy godlike habit, or a habit that the Bible suggests, such as discipline, such as not oversleeping, because there's a scripture that says that basically somebody who sleeps too much misses the mark, or something, right? And so like there's just like the slumber thing, there's just so many things. And so every time I try to do something that's in the will of God, why I can't seem to keep up with it, I can't seem to do it long term. And I'm like, Lord, why? And I'm like, I'm sabotaging myself, but why? And I remember I talked to a sister at church, and she said, whenever, like, for instance, I will be good at keeping up with the laundry, the dishes, cooking, packing my lunch, making sure everything is prepared before work, with my pets, with my kids, and all of this stuff. And then I can't keep up with it. It'll fall off. And then before you know it, I got laundry piled up, I got dishes, and I got all of that. And she said, well, I know what that is. That's what happens when you got too much in your mind, so you can't. So then of course when you get the physical, when the stuff that's actually fit in your physical life, in your actual physical world, you're gonna make that pile up too, because it's too much in your mind that you haven't processed, right? So when I was listening to Tiffany Buckner, she was saying the same thing in her video. In one of the videos, I remember I watched several videos of hers, and that one day she said that, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's confirmation with that. And then I'm like, but why? Why do I keep doing this? And I just kept feeling, and I kept hearing, because you're trying to do it by your own might. You're trying to do it on your own. You haven't given it to God. And I kept thinking, but I have asked you. I have asked for help with this. I have asked. Why can't I seem to get this together? Why can't I seem to get it right? And so as I watched another one of her videos, that's when she was saying about the whole, intimacy with God thing. So that's another piece of the puzzle. So I got symptoms of a deeper problem. I got sabotaging, refusing to stick to a schedule. I'm talking about, y'all, it don't matter how many. I put my alarm, my phone, in another room so I can get up, and guess what I'll do? Get up and turn it off and go lay back down. I'm talking about, it's nothing that was making me get out that bed before I wanted to get out that bed. And I realized it's because I've been fighting against true surrender to God, because I've been fighting against true surrender to God because I've been afraid of intimacy, being afraid of allowing, my whole life I've been afraid of allowing people to love me, and therefore really experiencing good, genuine loving connections with other people, and I've been feeling like I had to perform to get love from people, that I had to be perfect, I had to act the way people wanted me to act in order to get love from other people, right? So so I put it like this. So basically, I've been sabotaging getting up on time because I don't want to do what God wants me to do. So if I don't get up on time, if I don't get all my stuff out how I'm supposed to, and I'm constantly behind on dishes, I'm constantly behind on laundry, things like that, then I don't have to address the real issue. And another thing is because I'm sabotaging myself, because if I can't get up at a good time, that means I won't be able to juggle my work, any extra work I do to make extra money. I won't be able to actually be able to post content. This is the main part right here. Post content that is discipling women who struggle with the same things I do and help free other women, because I won't be able to keep up with the schedule because I'll barely be getting up on time. I'll be catching up on laundry. That's going to take my time to do anything else that I need to do. That's going to push me forward into the next season of my life. Because if I don't have time, I don't have time, right? Then now it's going to take longer to get where I want to go. And the thing is God showed me that I was doing that, but I'm like, but how do I stop? Why do I know I'm doing it, but I refuse to stop? Why can't I stop? Because I've known this before. Why can't I stop? And that's when the intimacy piece came in, where I watched Anointed Fire's video, and she said, you like intimacy with God. So then he revealed to me that you're going to have to give this to me. You're going to have to actually ask for help in a surrender, intimate way. And then after you do that, then you're going to have to, once I did that, and I was like, okay. And then the Lord told me that I would have to surrender it to him, and I would have to be vulnerable with him. When I did that, I did it while I was at work, and then when I got off work last night and I talked to God about it again, where I can actually speak out loud in the comfort of my own home, right? And so he basically connected the dots, and he said, you're dealing with rejection, and basically you haven't believed that I actually love you because you're not understanding why. You're not understanding that I actually love you and have the best for you, and want the best for you, and will do anything for you. You will literally get everything you want, but you have to submit your life. You have to step fully into your call. You cannot waver. You cannot run away. That's the only way you're going to stop procrastinating. That's the only way you're going to stop self-sabotaging, by not getting up in the morning. When I was I was reading the Bible more, and I was doing all that, but it wasn't priority number one, which means I was not submitted. And it's like, the only way I was even going to be able to do that is commit to starting my mornings with God and going to bed with God. So one of the things that God told me to do when I was still at work was, I have to ask him and fully submit my whole life and my whole being to him in order to be healed from this, he told me it was because I suffered from perfectionism. That I wanted to be perfect. I wanted everything to be perfect in my life. That that if I don't perform everything perfect to a T, the way I perceive that it should be done, and that way I perceive that other people do things, which they probably don't even do that. That's just what they give off. That if I feel like this has been me. That if I don't do everything perfectly the way I'm supposed to, all 100% of the time, then it's not good enough. It's not gonna work. And that's why I was sabotaging it, because it was too much to live up to, and I didn't want to fail at anything, and I wanted it perfect all the time. For instance, if I say that I have to wake up at 5:30 every morning, I want to wake up at 5:30 every morning. I don't care if I don't care what time I went to bed last night. So you should be able to get up at 5:30 in the morning. This is the thoughts that's in my head. I wrote out, when I came up with my schedule, I wrote specific times for everything I was supposed to do. Okay, you're gonna get up at 5:30, then you're gonna feed your cats at 5:35, then you're gonna make your cup of coffee at 5:40, then from 5:40 to 6:15 you can read the Bible and you can consume some biblical content. Okay, then 6:15 you're gonna go wake up your kids, and then after that you're gonna make sure they get in the shower by 6:20, and then by or not shower, they already showered, get dressed and they're brushing their teeth, and by 6:30 you're gonna be getting in the shower and getting ready, and then okay, by 6:45 we're gonna leave the house. I was trying to do, and if I couldn't I'll set myself up for failure, because perfection, we are not perfect. We are not perfect. And the main message that I got out of my pastor's Bible study, yes, was love one another, and it convicted me to show me that I was lacking in this, and now is the time to fully step forward and do the thing I'm most uncomfortable and afraid to do, right? But the main message I got out of that was everybody in there was convicted. He said something that fit everybody in there. I'm just an introvert, so when he said that part, that hit me. But he said so many things, and what it really made me realize is and really in the heart, everybody is flawed. We all have a sin nature. We all fall short of the glory of God. I heard it so many times, but it finally started to click, because I was finally ready to be like, oh, I'm worthy of God's love. There's no action, there's no good deed and good behavior that I could do to be saved. I'm saved because God wants to save me, because he loves me. That's it. There's nothing I could do to ever measure up to deserve getting saved. And so even though I've been hearing this, I'm telling you, I've been being taught this in church, it was not hitting. I was believing it on a cognitive, understanding, logical level, but my heart, I did not believe it in my heart, meaning it was not a part of my belief system. I had another belief that overrode the beliefs that God has been trying to put into me this entire time through my apostle. Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait a minute. So he said, you're trying to be a perfectionist. You want everything to go a certain way. You when, okay, even when it down to my social media stuff, I gotta do it certain times, this and that. When it's like, no, you need to be disciplined. You need to make sure, and you need to have a list of things that are top priority that must get done that day. And then the rest, you just have to add it to your list and check it off as you go. But there's no way that your self-worth should be linked to this stuff. But perfectionism comes from rejection. When you try to be perfect and not have any flaws, and you try to do everything to the T, it's so that you don't mess up. And my apostle said this in Bible study, so that you don't mess up, so that nobody can see you be human. Nobody can see your flaws. Because when you, he didn't say this part, but when you when your flaws have been shown in the past, anybody who resonates with what I'm saying, when your flaws have been shown in the past, when you have shown yourself to be a mere human and flawed in your past, you have gotten rejected for it. When you have been yourself, which whenever you are being yourself, somebody's gonna reject you for it. Somebody's not gonna like something you say or do, whether you deserve it or not. That part doesn't matter. The part that matters is when I'm being my human self, when I'm being me, I'm getting rejected for it. I'm getting thrown away for it. So I'm gonna make sure I perform and I'm on my best behavior with people. And every time I try to do something, I'm gonna try to do it perfectly so that I don't screw it up. Because after all, if I screw it up, nobody's gonna love me, nobody's gonna want me, right? Nobody's gonna respect me. I'm not gonna be good at anything and good for anybody, right? These are the thoughts, okay? Even sometimes you might not even, that might not be a thought that you're having. It might be a subconscious belief, but you might not be thinking it, but it's what you believe. Your thoughts might be slightly different than that. But as long as you think that you have to do something a certain way meticulously to the point like that, it's like, no. And so that's why I was sabotaging. That's why I wouldn't get out of bed. That's why I wouldn't do things like, how I was supposed to. That's a part of the reason I was absent on social media, because I felt like I didn't know. I knew that I need to pivot the way I did everything, but I didn't necessarily know what I needed to do differently, and I wasn't willing to go there at the time, and I was not willing to be not knowing and having it all together and not having it perfectly planned out and figured out before I start. It's been years trying to even get me to do this. This is the longest I've ever pursued trying to disciple other women using social media, because if I wasn't able to predict what was going to happen next, then I didn't want to do it. And that's a part of trying to have things perfect. You are trying to protect yourself from rejection to the point where you're sabotaging everything you do. You don't even want to get started. You want to stop it before it gets anywhere good, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you not trusting God, you trusting you, and it's not right. And so I got a revelation. That was one of my revelations, was that the only way you're going to heal the rejection is if you fully submit. And then God told me to write a message to him that I need to read every night before I go to bed. So every night before I go to bed, I gotta read this message, and I gotta read a scripture that tells me that God loves me. You are like, okay, I've given my life to Christ, but like, how do I have a relationship with him? This is what I did. I started with saying, Lord, I am a flawed human with a sin nature, but still I dare to try. Why did I say that? Because God told me to. So I made sure to put in the forefront as a reminder to myself that I have a sin nature, meaning I'm not perfect. I cannot be perfect. I cannot do it right all the time. I might not even be able to do everything to a T half the time. Perfection? How are we going to be perfect while we on earth? That's in heaven. We still struggling with our sin nature here. We still struggling with our temperament and the way we was raised affecting who we are today, and how we interact with people, and how we go after our careers and all of that. Like, what? So that's why I said that's why God had me write that. Like, let's start out with the fact that it ain't no way you're gonna be perfect. Okay. And then I surrendered. I surrendered my whole life and will to you. And I said this: I will wake in the morning ready and willing to do your will. I was on Reddit looking up because this was a couple days ago. See how things tied in? I was like, man, I literally set 10 alarms, y'all. I don't know about 10 alarms, but I set alarms 5 minutes apart from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. so that I would wake up. Tell me why it worked. I woke up. I looked at that clock. I said, I'm gonna still lay here. Crazy. So that's when I was like, okay, let me look up some techniques. Like, I was on Reddit and somebody said, why don't you just tell yourself that you're gonna wake up in the morning before you go to bed? Shalise, I will wake up in the morning. I will get up at 6:15 and say it with conviction, right? And the reason I believe that is because when I was younger, I used to, when I wanted to dream about something, I would tell myself before bed, I will dream about such and such. I will get up and do this. I will get up and do that. I will remember this with intention. And I did it. So I know that that works. But I also knew that I was convinced, I was determined to sabotage myself, and that wouldn't be enough just to say I will get up in the morning. Right? So I kind of left it alone. So when God told me to write this, this is after I saw the Reddit thing. This is why I was like, okay, I need to read this to myself at night. I need to write something and read it to myself at night. The same conviction of, I remember I said, tell yourself I will get up at 6:15 a.m. How about this? How about you read to yourself? You write the stuff out. Basically, God telling me you're gonna write this and you're gonna read it to yourself, and you're gonna do it. But it's gonna be through God. It's not gonna be from my own will. See, what they were saying, the Reddit person would have been saying it's from your own will. But I knew that my will, if I do my will, I will bow out and I will run away from my assignment and try to be perfect and try to keep on combating rejection with masking myself, right? So I was like, no, this is gonna have to be God. So that means I'm gonna have to actually surrender, because surrendering means that I fully believe God, who he is, his role, my role, his role, who he actually is, the role he plays in my existence, which is like the entire thing, right? And all of that in order for this to work. Because he's gonna have to override me. The only way God can override your will is you have to surrender your will. He's not going to override your free will. You're going to have to give it to him. Not just in mind, oh, I like how that sounds, I want to do that. That helps, because as long as you keep seeking and figuring out how to surrender, God will give you the keys to surrender. Especially if you're genuinely wanting to do it, right? I finally arrived here at this place. So, anyways, I wrote this sentence and I said, I will wake in the morning ready and willing to do your will. I gotta, before I go to bed, you literally have to meditate on God's word day and night. When you first wake up and before you go to bed. Because if you don't, but more than that, the part that God gave to me was this. No, you're going to have to change your belief on who I am to you. And on what love is and what submission is. And you're going to have to tell yourself every time, you're going to have to reprogram this brain, basically. You're going to have to reprogram your beliefs. And you're going to have to do it before bed. You're going to have to submit to me so that I take over and change the way you see things and change your mind. Because when you in control, you do things the way you know how to survive. You don't do it the right way. So that's why I wrote, I will wake in the morning ready and willing to do your will. I'm your servant, whatever you want me to do, because my life, I literally exist because it made me for a reason. We're not here because we want it for ourselves. That's really a trick. That's one of the biggest lies that human beings believe, that we just here because we want to be here. And whatever we want to do with our lives, that's what we gonna do. Oh, well, God gives you the choice to do that, but you don't have the right to do that. In the words of Apostle Dana Carson, honey. Okay? You have the ability, but you don't have a right to do what you want to do. You have your free moral agency, but you don't have a right to do a lot of the stuff you do. If it don't line up with what God's word say, you ain't got a right to do it. Okay? So you don't got a right to live this life the way you feel like living it. You got a right to serve God and accept this salvation. That's what you got a right to do. So anyway, and I wrote, I'm not perfect. I can't be perfect, yet you still love me. I have to say this every night before I go to bed. Because if I don't, what you call intrusive thoughts, those demonic thoughts, those thoughts planted by the devil will come in. The ones that have been there since I've been a child. That's repetition. Whatever we think every day, all day, and we accept all day, every day is something we believe when we think it. That's what we're gonna believe, and therefore that's what we're gonna become. Out of the heart flows the issues of life. Okay, the heart is your belief system, what you believe. It's the heart of the matter. It's the root of everything you do, and how you walk, and how you live your life, and how you connect with other people, and how you either go after or avoid your calling based on what you believe. And so, yes, the enemy wants to come in and intercept and take you and keep. Well, he don't want to take you. He wants to keep you where he have you. We gotta wire this brain. It ain't no way I'm gonna ever be perfect, and I gotta say it every single day, all day. Matter of fact, just occurred to me right now. Every time I have a thought that implies that I'm going to be rejected or anything, I am not perfect. I am a flawed person, and I'm still worthy of love. All day, every day, and then before bed for sure. Or else I'm gonna wake up and feel defeated and not want to get out of bed because I don't want to face another day of trying to pursue perfection, but not being willing to step outside of my comfort, my worst core belief to get there, to get out of perfection, right? And so I gotta let God do it, because I will keep messing it up. Anything you ask me to do, I will succeed, because you made it just for me. Okay, so I wrote it like that, but I know what I mean by it. But let me articulate it, since I'm actually telling y'all about it. So when I say that anything you ask me to do, I will succeed because you made it just for me, what I mean by that is I cannot fail. How can you fail at your assignment? It's your assignment. Hear me out. If God created you for a purpose, He had your parents meet, they did what they did at the right time so that you can be born. You were raised under the circumstances you were that would lead you back to God so that you can fulfill the purpose. If he knows the end from the beginning, He knows everything. He knows your whole life path. How can you fail at your calling besides avoiding it? If you step into it, if you surrender to it, you will succeed at it. Even if you fall a few times, no matter how many mistakes you make, at the end, you're going to succeed at it because you have surrendered your life and dedicated your life to it as you are intended to in the first place. So when you're in the good will of God, which is when you're pursuing his purpose for your life, you cannot fail at your purpose. Now, God told me this a few months back, but because I did not believe that I could be loved by God no matter how horrible I am or perceive myself to be, or others perceive me, right? Because we're all the villain in somebody's story. Rightfully so, a lot of times too. And so, because I couldn't believe that for the longest, even though God gave me the revelation a couple months ago about there's no way that I can fail at my assignment, I'm gonna succeed no matter what. The way it's gonna hit now, and the way my life is gonna change now, that I'm in alignment with what I believe, because even though this just happened, once you surrender to God, that's it. He gonna take the reins. I do my part. Read this before bed. And now I bought Jackie Hill Perry's Upon Wakening 60-day devotional, so that as soon as I wake up in the morning, so I can read and start my day with God. And her devotional is about intimacy with God. I didn't even realize it was about that specifically. Because when you think of devotionals, even though she said her devotional was different, by me not reading it at first, the intro, I would not know all of that. But she said it's not like a typical devotional, and it's only a 60-day one. And I'm like, okay, devotional, they just have scriptures and words of encouragement. Okay, cool. But no, in her intro, she says it's challenging you to intimacy with God, a relationship. See how God works, how all that aligns. So anyway, yeah, anything you ask me to do, I will succeed because you made it just for me. What I mean by that is God made my purpose, his purpose for my life. He created it. He gave me a specific purpose to walk out and live in this life and to complete in this life. So because it was made just for me, that means I was made for it, right? I was made and created in a way that will make me sufficient to carry out my purpose. So it does not require perfection. God created me in such a way that I will be perfect, the perfect person to fulfill this role. And so I can't fail at it. I'm flawed, all of that, yeah. So is everybody else. That does not negate me. That does not prevent me from being able to fulfill the purpose he put on my life. And I was able to finally understand that. Okay? And so that was a beautiful thing to be able to understand. And so that's what I've committed to do. There's no way. And I really realized as I'm sitting here, I literally I did not want to get out of bed because I knew that I had to change. I knew I was on the brink of change, on the brink of a new season, and I knew that I was afraid to do what it took to get there. I could feel it, but consciously I could not pinpoint what I was so afraid of. And the big revelation that I got today, this is the last thing, and then I'm going to talk about the way I'm going to revamp and format the way that I interact with you guys and bring content. Okay, so the big revelation that I got today, I was ever so grateful for it. I don't know which revelation is bigger, but I guess whichever one was the latest one, right? When I was at the new member event at church tonight, the biggest thing, the revelation that I got, and I was like, this is why God wanted me to go. because I didn't want to go. One of the sisters at church, she was like, yeah, the new member thing is this Friday. You should go. I was like, yeah, I don't want to go. I won't get there at 7 o'clock. She's like, you can just still go a little after that. Or something she said. I was like, I just don't want to go. I just told her. She's like, oh, okay. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go to this, don't I? Like, I could tell I was wrong. And then I had to go. I was like, oh, that no should not have been a no. I could tell. I could tell. So I just felt it. I was like, oh my God, I have to go to this. So anyways, I'm so glad I did. This is why God wanted me to go. Because one of the other new members said that basically she was like, you know, I actually went to your church when it was in Austin, and I remember thinking, man, I wish this could be my church. Like when she was younger. She's like, I would love to go to a church like this. And then for me to actually end up at your church as I'm an adult, when she was a kid, I think she said this, as an adult, with my own daughter. This is amazing. And the way that the other members work with the children is just so beautiful and so amazing. And she was like, even when my sister came with her daughter, and one of the ushers held her daughter and kept her daughter for her in the sanctuary while she went outside to go to her car in the rain to get something she needed. And that her sister was just like, wow, they really kept my daughter, like, and helped me out. I'm not used to this, because, you know, otherwise she would have to take her daughter outside in the rain with her, and, you know, it's kids, and sometimes depending on their age range, they don't, that's that adds stress. So the fact that they were thinking to reduce her stress, she was so thankful. And she was, and I was like, oh, I think she even said the love that they show here, that you show here, that the love is here. And if she didn't say it, that's what immediately came to my mind, was an understanding. Wow, they're really loving here. I've been being showed love here, and I was like, wow, this entire time I've been shown nothing but love here and acceptance here. And I really didn't understand it until tonight. Now, they've been just being consistent the whole way through. They've been showing love since the very beginning, but I could not receive it in a way that I was supposed to. So I acknowledge I was okay. I've always felt welcomed and warmth from everybody. But I was unable to understand. What I mean by that is, by me being constantly trying to mask myself and constantly trying to get my acceptance automatically, right? Get my acceptance through people pleasing, and the people pleasing that I was still stuck on. There's other ways to people please. The specific people pleasing I'm talking about is, let me only act and show the sides of myself that will make me more palatable for you. And the thing is, I do it automatically. I don't do it if I'm only around a certain type of personality. I do it automatically. So by me approaching church that way, yes, I'm kind. Yes, I'm actually nice. I'm not pretending to be kind. I'm not pretending to be nice. But I was not fully showing up vulnerably, letting my guard down. So the way that I spoke to God and I said, Lord, I don't know what I'm, like, what am I doing? Like, I keep trying, I keep failing. I feel terrible. I don't even want to get out the bed. Why would I ruin everything? Like, right? I was not showing myself authentically. Like, I could have been more like, when I talk to certain people, I might not know what to say, for instance, right? Socially awkward, I have no idea what to say. I just be like, hi, how are you? Like, I be just genuinely wanting to talk to them and say hello. And there's certain people that I do bear myself with, but then sometimes I'll just be like, yeah, everything's good, and I'll only talk about the good stuff that's going on. But the things that's bothering me, for the longest, until more recently, I wouldn't do it. So only presenting the side of myself that's palatable, that's easy to deal with, right? That's the point of me saying that. And because I've been doing that and trying to win people over by being nice and presentable and likable, by being like, hey, friendly, right? And yes, I'm friendly in the sense of, hey, how you doing and all of that. But I was so busy doing that, and I think that's why I couldn't figure out what to say to people next, because I'm trying to rehearse instead of just be. Because if I don't think about how I need to behave around people in advance, and think of what I need to be saying in advance, then they might reject me. Then it might not go well for me. Because when I'm just myself, it don't go right. People don't like me. They discard me. They treat me bad. Okay? This is the belief system I had. These are not the thoughts that popped up in my head when I was doing this stuff. The thoughts that came to my head, which were partial truths, which were lies. This is the enemy's influence, by the way. It wasn't, oh, if I don't present myself well, then no, it wasn't like that. It was, okay, I actually don't know what to say. I'm practicing. I want to talk to people. Hey, how you doing? All right, I'm doing good. Okay. Ooh, I talked to him. I did a good job. All right. Hey, and then I'll be just hoping that they would say something that would get me talking, so I can like show that I'm interested in them and that I really want to talk to them. This is what I was thinking on the conscious level, the thoughts that were coming through. But subconsciously, what was fueling me to act like that was the actual truth of, if I don't present myself in a way that's palatable to people, and take their lead, so that let them, or go by their lead, so that I know how to be, how to talk, then they not gonna like me. And it's crazy because if you sit down and actually hang out with somebody, and I'm actually around them and actually talk to them, I will be straight, like, more vulnerable and honest like this. But when it comes to that initial connection, that initial thing that before the ice is broken, that's what I'm gonna do. Not anymore. I'm not gonna claim that no more. But that's what I've been doing. And so I forgot why I was even saying all of this. So when she said, when she basically expressed how much love is at our church, I was like, wow. I almost started crying in there, but I was like, we can't do that, because I just didn't want to cry. But I didn't cry plenty of times at church, but I was like, not today. Man, I don't feel like losing it. But I was like, wow, I've been unable, not only in church these last 10 months, been able to truly accept love from other people, where I felt it in my heart, and I really believed it and really understood when I'm being loved. Didn't even know, because I've been so busy trying to perform to get my love, to get my recognition. And it wasn't even love, it was just acceptance. Wasn't even for love. I was willing to bargain for acceptance and for somebody to be willing to be around me. And I'm telling you that a lot of you watching, when it comes to men, that's why you do it. That's why you'll give Terry 10 chances. That's why you'll give Lance 30 chances. He could cheat on you all these times. You'll go back with him. Because you're bargaining for acceptance. I'll put up with whatever you do. You could treat me however you want. The fact that you're around me is good enough for me. It brings me comfort. It makes me feel acceptance. You're not rejecting me because you're still physically here, but they're rejecting you by how they're treating you. But you don't believe the truth. You believe the lie because you're in bondage. So I was doing all of this to bargain for acceptance, and doing all of this to to bargain for acceptance, and I was doing it, trying to stop doing it, trying to get past it, couldn't figure out what I was doing. Like, oh, that's what I'm doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Woo! Now that I realize I've been being loved this whole time, and I told somebody at church this, I was like, I have to confess this to somebody because this is vulnerability. And I can trust these people. And this is what God was telling me while I was sitting there. You could trust these people because if you trust me and you allow me to love you and you love me, right? That means wherever I send you, because you cannot be saved without a church. So wherever I send you, these people, you can trust them and they love you. Now we know that there's different types of spirits that also go to church every Sunday, but use your discernment. Put it this way. Most of the people I interact with, majority, are trustworthy with expecting love and connection from them and being able to get it. Because the people that God has connected me with in the church have shown me genuine interest and love. And that's it. And I finally realized I don't have to do anything to earn people's love. I can't earn God's love. I just have to be. And when I mess up, I just have to own up to it, talk about it, and that's it. Forgiveness is a requirement of being a Christian. And, hey, it won't be perfect from here on out. But as long as I got that now, I really believe it. Believe the things that have been getting drilled into me since I've started the Rock Church. And by drilled, I just mean that the message has been consistent repeatedly over and over again. And I attend a lot of services. There's a lot of services offered. And that is the core message. Surrender and have a relationship with God. That's the core message because that's the core of what God is trying to do with us, right? And so I finally believe that God loves me and I don't have to earn his love. And if I don't have to earn God's love, I don't have to earn his people's love. His people, Christian people's love. If I was to step back out into that world and be trying to earn the love of people in the world, yeah. It's all conditional. And you need to perform. You need to perform for a lot of people. Not everybody, but you gotta perform. You can't just show up and say I'm flawed, love me anyway. They're gonna say, well, maybe, but only if this, right? All right, so that was the message that I wanted to get to y'all. Really quick, I want to talk about how I'm gonna transition the way I do my content. If you notice, especially on TikTok, no, I posted some of it on YouTube too. I was doing like funny little skit stuff because I was trying to figure out how to get my message across, and how to engage and how to get you guys interested. But I realized, if I just come authentically and more raw and not try to perfect the craft, before I even know. I can't predict. This is new, right? This is new to me. I cannot predict where it's gonna go. I just have to try it out and practice. So I was trying to figure out what will work, making sure to actually talk about myself, let you get to know me, what I do in my life on a daily basis. When I go to something with church, I actually openly talk about that and just say that, and give details about things. So that's what I'm gonna do for videos where God has told me, reveal something to me, and I gotta share it with you. At first I was trying to model the way I came across off of other people, and they're more performative and they over edit things, and you know, you've seen it. But the other content I'm gonna do is I am going to I'm gonna do videos where I answer questions about dating, like dating struggles. And like, if I watch and see a video on TikTok, wherever I see it, I'm gonna get a clip of it and put it probably about here on the video, and we're going to dissect it. And I'm gonna whatever the topic is, we're going to go through it together, and I'm going to talk about it and explain to you things that I've learned, because I definitely dealt with narcissistic abuse in my past. I definitely dealt with a narcissistic relationship or two in my past, and so that will not be the focal point, as far as I know, unless God is like, actually that is right. That will not be the focal point for me. The focal point for me will be helping and discipling women who are lost, who don't know who they are, who deal heavily with rejection, and have therefore been used as a doormat in their romantic relationships, in friendships, and or family, right? And helping women who are lost and want to find who they are, and when they come and they watch my stuff, they realize, if they haven't already, that they need a relationship with God, they need to get saved, give their life to Christ, and that this is what I'm doing. And so when I do the relationship stuff, I'm focusing on relationships because this is where a lot of women waste their lives, is chasing after validation and acceptance from a man. Remember how I just said that's why you would stay with a guy and let him treat you bad, because you feel accepted by him, and all you want is acceptance, and he fulfills that void. So you think it's a lie, it's not true, but you believe it, so it might as well be true to you, right? And so I'm focusing on relationships for that reason. I'm focusing on romantic relationships because a lot of women that I really want to help in the like 18 to like 35 range. I want to help any woman who can benefit, but I feel like this is the range in which women really are trying to find validation through men. They've been taught that they only have worth as much as a man is willing to be with them and marry them, right? And it's just a lot of people right now are women are trying to turn cold in order to avoid being hurt by a man, when that's not the way to go. And so I want to steer you away from that. And because so many women are focused on dating and relationships, I want to catch you while you're focused on that. I want you to stumble across my stuff and get you right and help you and steer you in the right direction. So that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to focus on romantic relationships because that's where a lot of women are. And that's also where a lot of women realize, wow, Not okay. That's where a lot of women, there's a community of women who, that's when they actually start trying to figure out who they are. That's when they actually start on the they want to find themselves. That's when they actually start on the self identity journey. That's when they actually start on the self development journey, is being hurt repetitively by a man. So we're gonna focus on that. I'm gonna talk about family and friends too. And so that's where I'm gonna focus, because a lot of women will be like, man, wow, I have had 7 relationships and they all ended the same. The guys treated me the same in every one. You know what? It must be me. Because it is you. It's not to say that the guy is like not terrible. It's to say that, what is it about me that doesn't mind getting walked all over, stamped all over, used up, abused, disrespected, and call it love? Why do I do that? I know it's wrong and I don't want to stop myself. Why? Acceptance. You want to be accepted. So you suffer and deal with rejection. God's gonna send whoever to this that needs to see it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to follow me if you're watching from TikTok. And I will be posting. I have more older content you can watch. Still very great stuff, guys. It's just the format is different. And yeah, let's get on this journey together, guys. This is the Authentic Woman Project. I will see you later.